When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
So this is the third house of the houses that we bought. So
Everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Hey, folks. Happy Independence Day weekend. So I just have to say that we wouldn't have Independence Day if we didn't have guns.
Right, and cannons.
And cannons. And all of that. I mean, it really is about Americans.
This has been a great weekend here. I don't know what it's like across the country, but
you mean weather-wise and barbecue and all that kind of stuff?
I'd much prefer to be out making stinky smoke today and eating hamburgers and tomatoes and stuff like that.
That's all the pieces that go with Independence Day is celebration and family and, you know, all of that type of stuff.
Sitting and reading 700 pages of Supreme Court documents that have been released.
Because it's one case after another case after another case after another case. So I'm just going to say that to all of you patriots out there, it has been an amazing couple of weeks as you watch these cases come out. And I have to say that Clarence Thomas has been very quiet for 20 years. And then, yeehaw, when he got his voice, where was he and what was going on?
Somebody else was holding his lips shut for years, and now he's allowed to speak.
I don't know. I really don't know, but it is.
So,
I mean,
it makes you wonder what he's got for next year. This year was a winner, so.
Well, I'm telling you that right now, patriots are really, really excited about all the stuff that came out of the Supreme Court.
I think you should watch it and shouldn't go camping anywhere near where there are going to be pillows and stuff like that.
Because there's that. Well, you know, and that is an interesting thing. Is up to this point, Clarence Thomas and his wife have a motorhome, and during the summer break, they get in their motorhome and travel across the country and just go visit things. And he's always been kind of a sleeper, and most people don't recognize who he is, don't recognize his face. That's probably
we as a society are clueless. We don't even know who our local people are, so national people are completely out of our view. Well, we know the Kardashians, and we know what some of the winners at the Emmys and that look like, but the guys who are making speed limit rules and the fact that you got to have a shot to go to the ball game or something.
We don't know who those are.
Any of those guys
are. You know, it's kind of interesting because I believe that now they know who they are, and I think that now it's because now there's wanted posters with his face.
Used to be, they called it blissfully ignorant, and now we're no longer blissful
in that. But no, okay, so I mean, there were multiple cases that came out that I believe have impact on the Second Amendment, and they're going to have impact on so many different fronts.
Well, the thing is there's a ton of them come out, and you knew right away that what they were about, whether it was the New York versus Bruin. The Roe versus Wade. But there was one that was kind of a sleeper. It's in there was brought in front of the courts by the Child Protective Services.
Okay.
And it deals with Chevron, as they call it, and that is where government agencies overstep their bounds and make laws that really aren't there.
Okay.
So they're pushing their limits, as we see with the ATF and.
And isn't that part of like the EPA one too? The EPA versus West Virginia. It's the
same basic premise that West Virginia was complaining about EPA, and because they make their own rules and it's shutting down the coal industry, and so here they've got two different fronts that are attacking this government overreach from the same.
And we're saying that if those two are sandwich bread, the ATF is the peanut butter that is now getting squished out of the sandwich, right?
Right, because that's the thing is only the laws that the Congress actually passes are laws. The rest of that is a suggestion by someone who really doesn't even have a
dog in this fight. Oh, a job title. Okay, dog in this fight. I mean, they have an opinion, but their opinion means nothing to me.
They weren't given any power. They were just an acting director or something like this. It's like
there's some of that too. You know, there's so much. But when you look at it, I mean, even something that everyone thinks that they know exactly what it's about, like Roe versus Wade, is not really as it's about that, but it is also about states' rights.
Well, that's the trouble.
Shoving things
the
back.
Soundbite people use it to steer their crowd, and the crowd doesn't bother to read. All that stuff that you learned in the 4th and 5th grade is out the window. Because
they went far enough to say, okay, I know what this is about, because they've heard about Roe versus Wade for 50 years.
I'm waiting for the video, what do they call that? The documentary to come out. I don't
want
to bother to.
That's
like 143 pages. I'm not reading that.
I'm waiting for the audiobook, right?
Plus, a lot of people, I mean, I hate to say it, but we don't read on a very high level. I think the average newspaper, they say, is printed on a 6th grade level. Few people have comprehension of what they actually read, so they can read those words, but they don't really understand what those words say. And then if the words are somehow convoluted into a I guess this means that type of thing. That's just an extra crossword puzzle mixed into the conversation. No, I don't have time to put that all together and figure out what's happening.
I do kind of agree with that, because you sit there and you're trying to read something, and it's like they're trying to do this comparison, and you're like, wait, okay, I'm going to read it again, and then I give them 3 tries. If I can't in the 3rd read get it, okay, I need to move on.
They needed a graph is what they needed.
Exactly. They need a good graph. A good graph, a pictogram, that always helps, right, to do this. I have been called a nerd for making the statement that, I love a good graph. But sometimes a picture or a pictogram or something helps you understand, as they're explaining it, which team is what and what they're talking about. You know, because sometimes when all of the words are foreign to you, you can't get your head around it.
The thing is this summer's release from the Supreme Court is so big that it's going to be a couple of years worth of court cases for them to sort this out, and you will still be hearing about this stuff in.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So this New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen, what happened was that they actually went in and said, here's the decision on this case, but that, by the way, here is the way that you've been looking at Second Amendment cases, and you're wrong. You've been doing this on this 2-step process for consideration, and according to Clarence Thomas, that is 1 step too many. So that it should be very simple. And so they're going back to history. They're going back looking at it in those restrictions, where the liberal judges, or the judges that are on the counter side or on the left in this case, are going, well, no, the social norms, and they're like, no, we're going to the historical norms, not the social norms. And with that, it just kind of gets interesting. Go ahead.
Well, it's just he reminded the Department of Justice that we know that of no other constitutional right that an individual may exercise only after demonstrating to government officers some special need.
Right. So special need, and there are so many states that had May issue that had special need.
Right. It says First Amendment doesn't work that way. It becomes
when it comes to
unpopular speech. Sixth Amendment doesn't work that way when it confronts the witness against him, and Second Amendment doesn't work this way either. So there's rights are rights and not regulated privileges.
So that's the interesting thing. So there is that. It was that simple. Rights are right and not a regulated privilege.
Well, the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, says that it was on unbelievable that they would go in and take New York's law away from them that they've had since 1911. But it doesn't. They were saying it doesn't really matter how long they've had it wrong the whole time.
Right, and nobody's had enough nerve to push back. And
well, they tried pushing back, but they could not get a spot in the court. So, I mean, I've been watching this since the 60s, and there's so much bizarre stuff, and it's like they sue, and it either gets ignored or it gets watered down to something completely different, and they try not to actually make a statement on the Second Amendment. I mean, you've all seen this stuff where they're trying to decide if what well-regulated militia means.
Well, and we'll talk about that more when we come back right after this.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
So we want to wish everybody a happy Independence Day weekend, a happy 4th of July. And so what are we talking about history-wise? Something to do with Independence Day?
Well, besides, I don't know what would fit into that category. You guys are all bored of rifling and muzzleloading.
No. Let's. Have we talked about the Foursquare? Have we talked about the guns that the British used to
we talked
fight
about
with
that.
us? What about the ones that the Hessian troops used? I mean, because when you really look at,
no, it's funny because both sides used smoothbore guns because they're fast to load. The American long rifle, they call it the Kentucky rifle, the Pennsylvania rifle. It was rifled, so it was much more accurate, but it was yet much slower to load than the military muskets were at the time. It's funny because there's a thing on Roosevelt Island in New York. They say that there was 4 guys that were there to witness, and a guy shot this British soldier at a mile. Well, they said that there's nowhere on New York you could get a shot to this Roosevelt Island. It's more than about 200 yards long.
Okay.
But everybody
tested to it.
Everybody said it was a mile. The shot was a mile long.
It looked like a mile. We're not going with how bad people are with depth perception.
The funny part is, I mean, my flintlock, it's 45 caliber. It shoots about an 80 grain round ball. So in reality, it's like a hot loaded 380.
Okay. So let's talk about.
So you look at 200 yards. I mean, a hot loaded 380 really doesn't have a lot of power at that point. We were shooting at one time at a skid standing up, and the bullet would go through the first board in the skid, but then it would bounce off of the inside board. So that's how much oomph it had. Was
lack of. So let's talk about this in the realm of ghost guns, if you will, modern day ghost guns. When if you lived in revolutionary times and you wanted a gun, you could go to the gunsmith and he would build you one, or you could build your own, right?
Right. I mean, a blacksmith had most of the equipment to build a gun. A lot of times, though, it was easier for them to buy the parts. So there was some places that were set up to just make locks or make the other additional parts. Remington, when they first started out in 1816, that's what he made barrels. That was all he made, and it was quite a few years before he actually made a whole gun. But he was just set up to make barrels. He made pretty good barrels, and so people bought his barrel and put on their gun.
So you would buy the lock from one guy, the stock from one guy, and the barrel from another guy.
Or you usually would make your own stock. You just bought the other all the metal pieces from somebody, and the woodworking stuff you were
expected to sit home and whittle.
Yep, you figured you knew what you was doing on that. So
yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, and you look at the craftsmanship and stuff, but when
the thing is you think about it, they didn't have television to distract them. They didn't have video games. They didn't have a lot of. So in the evening when it started to get dark, they had a lot of free time that they could sit and scrape on this till they got it in the shape that they wanted it to be.
We'll just go. I guess. I mean, so you look at this. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were like, "Tell me what a ghost gun is. Does that mean that you buy all the pieces from and assemble it?" And it was like, "No, you really kind of make it, but it's not new to history. It's not."
No, there's a lot of places that they want something new, they just make it, and that's the thing is when we got to when we're done with the Pennsylvania rifle, we got to the Mississippi River, and we decided to go to the other side of the river. They realized that there was bears and things over there that was big enough that it kind of shook off the Kentucky rifle, and they needed something bigger. And so a guy named Hawkins built a much larger, shorter rifle, so it was easier to use on the West Coast than what you needed to shoot squirrels on the East Coast were. And so we've all heard of the Hawken rifle, and that he was just one of the many manufacturers who set up in St. Louis, and he was selling you a rifle to head west with at the time. And
so would people then trade their Kentucky rifle, or
a lot of times they would, or he could be rebored make it into something, or he'd trade it to somebody that was heading back east or something. And, it is a gun is a easy cash money. I mean, you could have the nicest chainsaw on the planet, and it's hard to sell, but somebody's willing to buy your gun for a couple of $100 right away.
I do have the nicest chainsaw on the planet. I have an amazing chainsaw, but I'm not giving up my gun either.
But that's the thing. There's not as many people need an amazing chainsaw as they want.
I've been talking to my girlfriend. Some of them want amazing chainsaws too. Maybe we're an odd group of ladies, but yes.
But it's funny. We used round balls up until the French come up with the mini ball, which is a longer bullet that's hollow in the back. So when the explosion happens, it blows this hollow base out in.
So they call it a mini ball, but it's not mini, and it's not a ball.
Well, the guy's name was Minnie, who built it.
Okay.
And so but it blows out into the rifling and then catches the rifling. So it goes in small, but when it comes out, it expands to the rifling and comes out accurate and big at that point. So it was fast loading. It worked really well. The way that the grooves were cut on it, it actually grabbed the dirt and pulled it out of the barrel at the same time. So it was kind of self-cleaning.
Oh, wow. Kind of like a self-cleaning oven.
So after a while, you still had to clean it, but it was a much more improvement over the old days of a packed round ball or something. And it's pretty accurate. And if you've ever played around with them, it's kind of amazing. You can only go just so fast before it starts to blow the skirt off of them, and then they fly funny. But if you stay within the speed limit, they work amazingly well. I mean, I shot an antenna off a car at 75 yards with mine one day at one of the car shoots.
There you go. Now, so when you say blow the skirt off, that is really the flange
where it
in the
out
bullet.
At the back, it'll when it comes out, it'll just flare out farther, and then it'll stretch a split, and then it just comes out and flies like a firecracker that lost its tail wing or something.
Okay, then it's just.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
okay.
if you stay in the speed limit, they're pretty accurate. But if you try to push it too hard, you'll have problems with it.
And things could go. And then the next level is first the bullet falls apart midair, but the second one would be where the gun falls apart right in front of your face. So there's a spot where you don't want to push it. Go the speed limit, stay within, and with the realm of possibilities. We'll be back right after these messages.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
Okay, so let's continue this conversation about the Supreme Court cases, because the interesting part was not only did we get the Bruen versus New York State Rifle and Pistol Association case and that decision, but it sets the standard for anything else that is Second Amendment. And one of the things that Clarence Thomas said in the decision is that first you read the text of the Second Amendment, and then you go to history. So it's text as informed by history. They don't allow you to use the new social justice warriors and in sporting purpose or any of those things that they had shoved into
for
conversation.
The last 60 years, they've been, what does this mean? What does that mean? I mean, when they read that the well-regulated militia, all of a sudden they would go right to the fact that it's only about the National Guard, blah, blah, blah. They didn't have the National Guard at the time of this. Each person was his own guardsman. He just didn't have a jet. He had a rifle that and 200 rounds of ammo. He had to have a rifle and enough stuff to shoot 200 shots out of it.
Okay, we get that. So
people today would freak out about having to spend that kind of money on just having it sitting around doing nothing.
Sitting around to support the government. Well, you're right. And then the other part that got really interesting was there was all of these cases then that got sent back from the Supreme Court that they had been kind of stacking up that got sent back to lower courts to reconsider, where the Supreme Court justices said, you got these wrong. Use what we're saying here in Bruen as the determinations to readdress this. So frankly, they didn't have to write anything besides, you got it wrong, use our stuff and redo it, and we're watching you.
So when you watch this stuff, though, I mean, if they're going back to whatever it was, 1788, 1790, that on the thing, there was virtually no regulation at the time. So if you could dream it, you could build it. It was
right. So home builds, magazine limits, assault weapons bans, everything.
When the British were going to the armory in town, they were going after the black powder supply and some of the cannons that the town itself owned. But there was still plenty of privately owned cannons around and stuff. So we've lost that privately owned cannon thing. I mean, very few people have one. And it's I I don't have even a garage for it.
I have a Canon. I don't have any wheels. My Canon is just, right now it looks like a stick with a hole in it. But it'll be, it has potential. We're just saying this will be where our listeners get to watch, look, and listen as we decide how we're going to outfit the Canon.
There's a lot of things. I mean, we're going to get to where they're going to fight about machine guns again, and they're going to fight about suppressors and
we can only
barrel
hope.
lengths stuff. There's a spot in there where people are going to argue this. Some regulation is necessary. I don't really know how you would say what is the necessary part.
Well,
the problem that you have today is that you have like Tommy guns that are out there on the market. If you went to Tommy Gun today and say, I want a machine gun, they could build you one for $1,500, say.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are paying $40,000 for an original Tommy gun. Are they going to continue to hold their value because they are original Tommy guns?
Because they're the vintage ones?
Versus the later ones? Or is there going to be a huge market shift in this stuff?
And you get that now and then, where you get a huge market shift into something,
There's the guys who are sitting on lots of these because they collect them, and now they're going to, if each one of them takes a $20,000
I'd say that now may be the time that you liquidate your there's a potential that liquidation of some of your assets may be to your benefit.
Right. So, I mean, that's the thing. So there's a lot of things to this, but some of it is that they stopped the manufacture of machine guns in 1986 with that. I can't think what
I don't know what it was called, but you're right.
As soon as I went to say that, all I could think of was the card shop downtown. And that ain't the name of it.
Oh yeah.
Anyhow, they had this. It was part of one of these trade-offs that we'll give you this if you give us this.
Compromise.
And so they stopped the new manufactured machine guns. Only for law enforcement and the military can have new machine guns, but everything else is just regulated to what is already out there. The other thing too is that they've been regulated since 1934, but yet they're saying the ATF estimates there's 770,000 unregistered ones in the country.
So that would be interesting too. So
they have an opportunity to get all of those on paper, but yet they choose not to do it.
Right, and if they did that, it would be an income generator. But yeah, because they already exist, so there is that. So, there's just pieces of this that are going to be really interesting as to how it all comes together.
Because it's so far reaching that you can't even see down in this deep nook and cranny of something.
What's it mean?
This law is going to change, which is going to shine light on this little spot down in here that all of a sudden now that's going to
shift something completely different.
You're going to be seeing this doing this undulations for a long time.
And there's people who are like, look at this. There are people who are literally losing their minds about these Supreme Court cases and gnashing their teeth and crying. And I mean, I just saw where a parent canceled fireworks and the 4th of July and the picnic because the Supreme Court has depressed them so badly that they can't function and they cannot allow their family to celebrate Independence Day because
they should take advantage of some of that mental health money supposedly that's out there, because they probably need someone to look inside of their head and see what's going on.
But you look at that. You look at these cases that came out of the Supreme Court. You look at, as George Geller just said, you look at the fact that California accidentally doxed or released information on all of their concealed carry holders. Oops, sorry. Here, let's make this public to everybody.
Now, also, with this Second Amendment stuff, is that going to make a difference in the lead things in the country because of the fact that
or the EPA one? So I have to say that I had a conversation with somebody who has is in a position of authority to make some changes in some of the stuff that were happening. And when I told him that we're not smelting any lead in the United States anymore, we don't manufacture powder in the United States, we're manufacturing very minimal primers because of the abuse that the companies take from the EPA, right? That should the United States get into a war, they can't supply their own ammunition. So, and he was like, really? I'm like, yeah, wake up, ask questions, because this is crazy. But so there's all of the stuff that is going to start unfurling, these laws that are going back, and people are looking at the Bruen case and they're filing their own lawsuits. I just saw where Tyler Irizarry and a crowd of people in DC are filing a lawsuit about being able to have a gun in DC on the metro. So in a public place. Then New York, as soon as they saw this Bruen thing, they wrote all of these rules saying that
they're
these
trying
are
to block you from having on the
right.
bus
So you
or
can't,
on the
yeah,
trains or
public.
anything.
You can't go to public buildings. You can't go to public on public transportation. You can't go on public streets. You can't. I mean, there was this.
It's kind of funny because some of the way that the law was, the way that they had said it, with everything reverts back to 1790 basically, but then Kavanaugh said that some of the problem with these guys and their rules are that they don't really write down in black and white what they're looking for. So if you go in and apply for a permit and you say, well, I need one because of this, they don't really have a hard line saying yay or nay on that. It's all on how does that guy feel that day. And so if his coffee was cold or his bagel was stale, all of a sudden you're not on a good side of the
accidentally, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, air quotes, accidentally. Yeah, that's that would be that accidentally. I accidentally punched my sister in the nose, right? And it was like, no, I did it on.
It's been known to happen.
It wasn't on purpose, right? I just said it was an accident, but I thought about it first.
I meant to punch her in the head, and she
moved. Whoops. I'm just saying that might have been 50 years ago, but who forgets? Just who forgets? But no, there's so much of this stuff, and these cases, I want to know about if it got remanded back. If some of these cases got remanded back to liberal justices, do they have to side with the Supreme Court now? If the Supreme Court says, you were wrong, I'm spanking you, I'm sending this back, you've got to redo your homework.
Well, I'm waiting for the lawsuit that goes into effect because when you have your 15th birthday, that means that you have successfully completed 15 years, or is that where you are beginning to start at 15? Because most people say, I had 15th birthday, I'm 15, until their 16th birthday when they're 16. But in reality, you've already completed 15 and you're working on 16.
Your true birthday.
So now 17-year-olds are really working on 18. So 17 in a day makes you more than 17. But
more than 17. And your first birthday, you were 0.
Right.
It was the day you were hatched. And so you had a birthday.
So I made it. This is 1, but we don't count it. And we're going to 2.
We'll be right back after this. More deep thoughts.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, so we're back. And the interesting part of all of this that's going on is
Which part would that be?
Well, that here's the Supreme Court ruling. We're talking about it. We're talking about the fact that the Supreme Court then said, send this back to the court, send this back to the court, send this back to the court, send this back to the court. Then immediately during that is when the House and Senate passed a bill, fast-tracked a gun control bill, and sent it to the president, and he signed it. I believe that they're going to find big chunks of it are also unconstitutional. Delaware just signs an unconstitutional gun bill. New York starts to put in restrictions on gun owners that there is no way in the world that they're going to stand up to the scrutiny that the Supreme Court just drew.
The thing is with this, where they got this 18 versus 21-year-old thing and stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that when they finally stir this up enough that the Supreme Court's going to see it, the Second Amendment doesn't say that a 2-year-old can't have a gun.
Oh, no. And so this is going to be that thing where you can't say it on, let's just say mess around and find out. That would be, right? But,
I mean, and this other stuff, everything is assault rifle, okay? Oh. The Brown Bass was an assault rifle.
When it was used to assault you.
And the thing was, I mean, the reason why they call it the Brown Bass is because it's the only girl you're going to get to be around for the next 4 years was Brown Bass.
Really? Is that why she was? Okay. So, and it wasn't a blued gun; it was a brown gun, right?
Brown gun.
So when like there's some guns that have black oxide finishes. Some guns have blued finishes.
Our stuff had what they call Arsenal Bright, so it was a shiny, almost like a nickel plate on the metalwork, and eventually it too turns black, but it just takes a little bit longer. But the English just browned it all so that it started out brown and didn't have to
patina.
Okay.
So that was why it was best, huh?
But I mean, even when something new come out, new cartridge guns, whatever, it was primarily for the military first, because the military is where the money's at.
Right.
And so when they would build something, I mean, they're all thinking. I mean, Smith & Wesson built their little #1 pistol in .22 short, thinking they could get a military contract for that. Winchester built their Henry rifle, thinking they could get a military contract for that. Mauser, Bouchard, all these guys were trying to get auto-loading rifles and pistols up and running because they could see the military had money for that stuff.
Right, so the military has money, and they can get large quantities of money at one time making exactly the same thing.
It was funny because when the Civil War was over, we had millions of muskets left over. And if you had an idea to convert it into a cartridge gun, the government would give you 200 of them and you could go home and
play with them.
Practice. And if you got something that was worthwhile, they would buy it from you. In most cases, though, it turned out that the government employee that they didn't have to pay any kind of patent rights or anything to, his idea was the winner because it was much cheaper for them in the long run than anybody else's idea that was out there.
Right. And how many times was his idea your idea that he just got right after he got to see yours?
It's the kind of thing is that, our American trapdoor rifle, the English had their Snyder trapdoor rifle. There was just someone who worked for the Federal Armory that, for one thing, is they had a lot of time on their hands. They get to see all this stuff. They could work on it at work instead of in their spare time. And the government didn't have to pay them additional for this thing.
And and they're all about that then.
Right. The Mauser brothers built their first single shot rifle. They got a government contract for it. It was real popular. When the 88 Mauser came out, it was built by a commission. Mauser had nothing to do with it. But because it used his turnbolt system, they give him the credit for it.
So it was built by a commission. What do you mean by that? What's that mean?
Just a government group of this is what we want. So they would test it out and say, we're going to go with this many rounds in it, this kind of a magazine, this type of barrel.
So by committee kind of thing.
The committee built this. So the 88 commission rifle, it got them through the smokeless transition. It wasn't a very robust rifle. It had a lot of issues, but it held them over. Mauser came back at it in 1892 with their regular bolt action Model 92, 93 style.
Okay.
The Germans ignored it, but the Spanish loved it, and then also the South Africans, they bought tons of them, and it made Mauser millionaires at that point.
Oh, good. Good for them. Love that.
The funny part, we had the first semi-automatic bolt action or semi-automatic rifle that actually functioned with the Garand. Prior to that, there was a lot of experimental stuff. Peterson built some. There was this one out of SIG. SIG built one for the Mexican government called a Mondragon. It was 7mm in the 1890s, actually. It didn't hold up real well either, but it was the very first semi-automatic rifle.
But it has a great name.
So, but it was funny. The Germans had so much trouble with the semi-automatic rifle. They mastered the pistol right away. One of the Mausers was, I believe, was killed, and the other one lost the eye working on the semi-automatic rifle. Walter ended up making a rifle that had a trap at the end of the barrel, so as the bullet was leaving the barrel, it pushed gas up in and then slid down the sleeve on the barrel and opened the action. But they had to use greased bullets. It didn't function really well. Considering how usually technologically advanced the Germans were, it seems funny that they had so much trouble once they finally got a hold of how it worked, then they were all good. But the first couple of times,
they're just
carnage.
Carnage, figuring it out. I can't imagine. I mean, think about the designers of firearms when they were like, how can we throw this rock bigger and stronger and faster? And how can we do it with an explosion that happens in a thing that we're going to put our face on?
The funny part is there's still people out there working on this stuff. I mean, the military wants a gun that doesn't use cartridge cases.
Right.
So they want
steel ring kind of thing.
The gunpowder is the cartridge case, and then it uses it up, and they don't have to throw it out the airplane or anything. So it makes it, they can put that much more bullets on the airplane instead of having to carry this empty brass around. They also are looking at gunpowder only expands at like 5,900 feet a second. That's about as fast as you can push something. So they're looking at these electronic rail guns because they can use the repulsion of magnetic fields to get into hyper velocities, and that
it's like when you really look at technology and how technology shifts, everybody's waiting for a technology shift, and when that happens, then everybody goes
as soon as something opens up, whether it's a new battery. Well, in the past we had the transistor was a big one.
So the transistor, the automobile, so the combustion engine and how it goes into a vehicle. Computers, frankly, I think probably cell phones were separate from computers,
The Wright brothers figured out how to fly in 1903, and by 1914, the Europeans were shooting at each other from things. So,
right. 11 years later, they're in the air shooting at one another, right? You're right. I mean, and it's that kind of stuff where you look at this and it's like, it is so amazing how fast things shift, how fast things move, and what that means. And so sometimes it's hard for lawmakers because they're looking at it going, well, I want to do something. They're 10 years behind. There's big conversations on what's a ghost gun or how does this work and what's that do? And they're all sitting there. They don't know, and they need to know because they're writing laws that are going to be deemed unconstitutional. And so many of these things, people are going to see them. They're going to suffer for them for a small while, and then it's going to be backed up because they're not going to be able to hold that. So, hey, we're going to be back with hour number 2 of Eye on the Target Radio.
Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
You and I are constantly bombarded by misinformation from politicians, celebrities, and media personalities who demonize guns and gun owners. Their accounts are contrary to my experience as a responsible gun owner, a retired police officer, and a professional competitive shooter. I have listened to their lies and I've taken their punches, but I refuse to stay silent any longer because I know a lot of women who have something to say and they won in the game. They're ready to play offense with the truth.
The truth is, we all want the same thing, to protect ourselves, our families, and to be safe in our communities. The DC Project is a nationwide grassroots organization made up of women from every demographic. We come from all different walks of life, but we are united in preserving our Second Amendment rights. As we share our experiences, we push back against gun control lies and oppose those who demand our rights be restricted.
As an immigrant from Venezuela, I saw how easy it was for freedom to die. My family and I watched tyranny destroy our home. In Venezuela, the media, celebrities, and politicians repeated the same anti-gun messages until people found it normal and acceptable to give up their freedoms. The reality is, none of it is normal or acceptable. Hungry and helpless, Venezuelans are now unable to protect themselves. Now, as a proud American, I am determined to guard against the same things happening here.
We constantly hear about common sense gun control, like universal background checks, banning assault weapons, ghost guns, high-capacity magazines, and gun show loopholes. Every city that is facing massive crime waves have put these policies into place. Common sense tells me that they don't work. So why do people still believe the idea that those policies save lives? Actual common sense is holding criminals accountable, not letting them out of jail or encouraging them to be more confrontational. Common sense is not stealing the right of the American people to protect themselves. This is the message that America needs to hear.
The DC Project works to reduce firearm accidents by campaigning for education in schools. We counter the false gun control lies by testifying in hearings and meeting our legislators. We equip our friends, our families, and our communities to know the truth. Gun owners are good people.
America is a beacon of freedom. The Second Amendment is vital piece in ensuring that our kids can have a free country to grow up in. We stand with the lawmakers who support the Constitution, and we provide armor from the attacks by the gun control lobby.
Join the DC Project today. Become a member, donate, or subscribe to our newsletter for updates on how we educate, advocate, and preserve our Second Amendment rights for generations to come.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
So, hey, folks, we are back. So Rob's a big meme guy, so he's like, yeah, he's always showing me something that just makes me laugh. But okay, so let's talk. I'm rolling back around the Supreme Court case because there's so many different facets to it. So we talked about the fact that there were cases that got remanded back down to the lower courts. And those cases included one about high-capacity magazines, one about assault weapons bans, and one about a state law that limits who can carry a gun outside of the home. And so a piece of it on the assault weapons ban one is that it's ban challenging ARs, assault weapons, and modern sporting rifles, and saying, are those protected by the Second Amendment? Can they define this gun is protected, this gun is not, and what that really means? And so the Supreme Court pretty much said, you've got it wrong, go back and fix it, which means that the war on assault weapons is pretty much just been fizzled.
When you read the Second Amendment, it doesn't state how many shots it can have. It doesn't say anything except for the black ones. It doesn't say for the
it doesn't
ones
say.
with
It's 27 words, and every word has meaning.
Doesn't say only ones with the open sights or no sights or blah blah blah.
None of that. And so it's really interesting.
When this is all said and done, there's going to be a rifle rack at the end of the table at your local diner, so you have a place to put your rifle, because none of this says concealed carry handgun either.
No, it does not.
I see that the liberals are pushing, this is opening up concealed carry. No, it opens it up to where you can carry whatever you want. Daniel Boone, I watch every Sunday morning. He carried his Betsy, I think is what he called it, everywhere. When he went into the bar, he just leaned it against the door and went on in and stuff. So I think that you're going to need a rifle rack in a lot of
heavens to Betsy. There you go. So it's gonna be interesting because these court rulings are all going back. But the other part is that it looks as if when the Supreme Court sent it back to these judges who the Supreme Court says had it wrong, that in some of the experts' eyes says that those cases, should the lower courts not follow suit and follow what the Supreme Court said, that they will address them themselves. They will take that as
How long is that going to take, though?
Probably 2 more years, because they've already defined what they're going to take next year.
I'm getting old fast.
I know. Well, isn't it crazy? Because like in June, they say what they're going to do, and then November they heard it, and then June again, before we got the answer, it's like, oh my, it hurts my motor to go so slow. I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. But here's the Alan Gottlieb, and we've had him on the show before. He runs Second Amendment Foundation, SAF.org. That is a group that really fights for our rights. But he has his lawyers going back, looking at any earlier cases that resulted in bad rulings or that were denied review by the higher courts, and deciding which ones need to be refiled. So there's a whole bunch of people that are digging in the closet and saying, what does this mean? And how can I get an answer?
To a certain point, and then all of a sudden the court says, well, we're not going to look at this. Or
remember last year where there were 10 Second Amendment cases that they had all in a big pile?
Right, and then they didn't bother to hear any of them?
Nope, they sent them all back. So they were like, okay, yep, nope. So now those can be picked up and run. But one of the things is that they're talking about, here's how gun cases are heard. Here's how these laws are made. Immediately, upon the Bruen case, the House signed this bill that is, well, the first gun control legislation in 28 years. I want to say it's morally reprehensible, but
the funny part about the whole thing was that Joe Biden has been beating this drum, gun control.
I want this.
Nothing that he wanted got into any of this.
But we have to do something. We have to do it, and we have to do it fast.
And it seems like the only one after the teenagers. They didn't go after old people. It was like 18 to 21-year-olds. We hate you. We're going to make you wait. We're going to make this. We're going to do this.
Well, how much of that is then law abiding based on this? Because
there's 27 words don't say except for 21 to 22.
I really think that that they made a mistake. I think this was a tactical error.
So when a 10-year-old says, "Today's my birthday, I'm going down and buying a gun," it's up to you, not to the court, to say one way or the other. My 10-year-old be like, "I'm cool with that. Let's go."
Let's go. Great. So it's really going to be interesting. But you look at that, then you look at the states' rights portion, where I had this big conversation about red flag, and they're like, "Oh, well, we didn't really pass red flag. We passed that we'll give money to states who do red flag as long as they have due process." I'm like, where does it say due process? I want to know where it says due process. And so far, nobody has showed me. Nobody has said it's on line 147. It's not. And I haven't seen it. Right. And I'm open to seeing it. But
to come to your house at 3 o'clock in the morning and kick the door in and beat you with pipe and then take you out in cuffs, they don't usually give due process on that.
Exactly. And so
they could wait till 9:30 in the morning and call you and say, "Come down here, we want to talk to you. Things may not go good for you. Bring your lawyer with you."
Right. That would be a different thing. Your neighbor Gladys Kravitz just made a complaint about you. Okay.
You might need a lawyer. Bring him with you.
Exactly. So you're watching the 18 to 21-year-olds. You're watching this red flag portion. You're watching so much stuff. I mean, I have hope. Honestly, in my conversations, it was like, if they'd have split this to a mental health bill and a gun bill, and they build it as a gun bill and not the savior of all things.
But they can't shove it through in 5 days if they split it all up and have to vote on it and hear about it.
And talk about it, because they kept voting not to talk.
After they vote on it, then they can read
it to figure out what's in it. Right?
I think we need to look at Congress, and we should vote on it before we read what we're getting the next time too. So
you mean as in who? Right. So no, it's going to be interesting to find out how much of this they just pull apart and say, okay, it's unconstitutional, can't do it. You can dream it, but you can't do it. But how much of the stuff in the mental health is really going to get through, the well-meaning stuff? How much of it is going to get through, as opposed to people saying, well, that's private. You can't talk about this. This is HIPAA. You can't talk about that. I'm a counselor. I can't, my clients will not trust me if I have the right to turn it into the police.
Right. So the other part you have about this ghost gun thing is it stifles technology, in the fact that if you can't play around and make yourself something that's different than is available through the normal channels. I mean, you think about it, there was this guy in Utah who had an idea, and he'd build a gun, and he'd sell a couple of them, and Winchester liked it so well, they got on a train and went out there to see him and bought all of his stuff, and then it got to where anytime he made something, Winchester would just buy it without having to look at it, because
And who was that guy?
John Browning.
There you go. Okay.
So he was making ghost guns in a little machine shop behind the house that was running with a water wheel.
He's like, I got some ideas, and I'm going to play with this.
So his brothers ran a regular gun shop. So a lot of times you could buy the Browning equivalent to the Winchester before Winchester got to put their name on it. And sometimes even after that, the 1885 model Winchester the high wall, low wall. It was such a popular seller, the brothers continued to sell it, even though the contract said that they weren't allowed to.
They weren't allowed to. So what could Winchester do? Because they didn't want to. They didn't want to kill, the goose that laid the golden egg.
Some of the problem that they had was that eventually they got into a contest to see who had the bigger thing.
Right.
And Browning took
spine,
his stuff
right?
to. He sold his pistols to Colt, and he sold his long guns to FN in Belgium. And so
he's like, I don't need you. I don't need you at all.
He went to Europe with his stuff, and he was a big hit over there too. So
he was brilliant. We'll be back right after these messages.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, KRMAradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
So one of the conversations is this restriction of ghost guns and how folks, and they've given it this name, ooh, spooky ghost gun, right? And so we've let them own another name. But it really is not, it's not new. It's not unique.
No new technology to this. There is some technology stuff to it. And the big thing that we are looking at, it's not about the gun so much. It's the holding back of technology. You guys all see these 3D printers. Look at your home computer. When I was getting out of school in the late 70s, early 80s, the computer was so rudimentary at that time.
1986, I bought the computer that our company ran, and I think my calculator now has more memory than
that's the thing.
that whole computer.
Now everybody uses a computer with smartphone, tablet, whatever for almost everything. This 3D printing thing is going to be the future, and a lot of things. Instead of you going to the store and buying your widget or whatever, you will just contact the widget company, and they will send you the plans. You load it into your 3D printer, and it makes you one overnight while you're
then you're not paying shipping.
And so it just builds it right then, and down the road, if it wears out or if it needs repair parts, you got the plans to continue building it again or whatever,
and you're good to go.
And
the interesting part is, I mean, based on that, you want to watch technology advance, and so you were telling me over the break about the Treaty of Versailles in World War I, where they started to they did restrict.
If you read the stuff of what they did to Europe after World War I, they restricted firearms and stuff all across the thing. There was a huge
firearms
market.
Ownership, firearms manufacture, firearms, all of it.
If people can't buy one, there's no sense in building it. So there's the guys who were in the industry went into like government facilities and stuff like that, work for the government. But the little guys who were building pistols or whatever on their own, they went into making bicycles and toasters or something because there was no money in the gun part of it. But how much technology did we not gain in that time frame because these people were basically handcuffed to something different? And all of these, think about it, in 1893, we had the Bouchard pistol was the first actually working semi-automatic pistol. And by 1900, there was probably 50 different players in that market trying to get government contracts and stuff for semi-automatic pistols. So how much stuff that we didn't bother to build?
I mean, so you look at it, and it went to 1900. There was people trying to get into it. 1911 is the gun that we all know that they're still manufacturing it today. That technology. Right. And World War I was in 1918, and when it was over, then guess what? That whole expanse of designs and concepts on the European front stopped.
So the European market was where they would test the stuff out and sell it to people, and because it wasn't happening, then there wasn't a lot of different players in that thing. So we've basically stopped the invention at that point because there's no market to sell the invention at that. Browning himself actually he made quite a few guns in that 1910 range. He came back home, and the Browning high power that you guys everybody else knows is a P35, but it's the high power. He eventually took that back to Europe and sold it to FN, and then he sold it to the Canadians. So some of the military contracts for that were what was making money at the time of Browning's death was for this pistol that they still make today, which it's a pretty tough little pistol, but history's left it behind because it doesn't have double action. It was one of the first with a 13-shot magazine though.
But it didn't get to grow more. I mean,
it could have been much more popular had it been available to everyone on the planet instead of just to.
Well,
governmental.
There is that. So one of our listeners says a ghost gun. Those are invisible guns. So, Casper, the ghost gun. There you go. I'm just saying. And I when we allow the naysayers to own the words, to own the verbiage. I mean, modern sporting rifles become assault weapons, smart guns.
Another thing is guns didn't have to have a serial number until 1968.
Correct. So everything prior to that.
Most manufacturers only put them on for their own personal tracking and for later on for parts. If you needed parts for your gun, you send them a serial number. They knew about what era your gun was built in, so they could send you the correct fitting pieces that go into it.
But they weren't. It wasn't like they were tracking them in any kind of
And there was a lot of I've been buying guns since I was a little kid, and you'll see a lot of old, really nice guns that don't have serial numbers on them
at all
because they call them lunchbox guns. Somebody who was building one thought, "Well, I'd really like to have one of these," so they just brought it home one piece at a time, like Johnny Cash's Cadillac,
exactly,
and put it together on the kitchen table.
So it should have had a serial number. It should have had a manufacturer's serial number, but that piece never got that part.
Right. It just skipped that step.
Moved on. Now it's not traceable. It's interesting. I mean, the manufacturing portion of making guns is what's interesting to me. I mean, there's a piece of it as to how did they discover this, and then how do you make it blue, or how do you color case harden it, or how do you make it black oxide, or how do you turn it brown, and why would you pick black over blue over brown, or all of those kinds of things. I just find that interesting, and most of them were not decisions made for aesthetics. They were decisions made for protection of the firearm itself.
Durability.
Yes.
But there was some where they wanted the shiny finish or the engraving because they were showing it off, or it was a presentation piece for some special occasion or something.
So that would be where they nickel plate it, or they engrave it, or they, those kind of things. But the commercially made stuff that wasn't unique.
Ideally, they just wanted a good, tough finish that didn't rust and didn't wear off too fast, so that the gun still looked pretty good for quite a while.
So you didn't have fingerprints on it, because when you put it away, your fingerprints rusted it in 2.5 days. We'll just say, not that I have a voice of experience, but 2.5 days. We'll be right back.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Rangemaster certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional. A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Okay, so we're back. I want to talk about this. You guys know how much I abhor gun buyback programs because they're not buying them back because they didn't own them in the first place. And if you're offering me $100 for a $400 gun, then why wouldn't I take it to a gun shop, sell it at a gun shop? If your goal is to make sure that it is owned by a responsible person, making it to where they take it to a gun shop and maximize the amount of money that they would get out of it would be a socially responsible thing to do.
Well, a lot of these, they don't care about that. It's like the guns that the sheriffs and police departments gather up. They stand, one hand, it's like, oh, we got all these guns we picked up. On the other hand, they say, we need cars, we need officers, we need money, so why don't they resell them back into the system? And they say, well, every gun coming off the street. Well, there's 200 gun companies across the country that are building new guns every day. So you might as well just push these back into the system.
You're just trying to make sure that they're in good hands would be the responsible thing. But okay, so Fort Worth had a gun buyback program, and they planned to do it for 4 days. They had 100 $100 gift cards. 100. They're going to buy back guns for 4 days. 3.5 hours later, they ran out of money. And oh, by the way, they were gun owners for Open Carry Texas, which is an organization. Their president and founder, C.J. Grisham, was there. And so their folks were standing on the sidewalk before they got into the gun buyback program saying, what you got? I'll give you $100 cash. You don't have to have no stinking gift card. I'll give you $150 cash. You don't have no stinking $100 gift card. So they bought another 30 guns off the top of that.
See, the big thing is like the government is protected in the fact that if they bought a stolen gun or something, then or one that's been used in a crime. But you
guys, are not.
Yeah, you are not. So you may have bought some problems, and depending on how much time they got to pester you about the whole thing.
Well, there is that. I think it's great that they did it, and that they were in buying them, so the people got money.
Well, I think there should be some more. Somebody should be paying attention to this stuff because I'm sure there's some historically significant pieces that are going through this stuff.
California's already destroyed Sammy Davis Jr.'s gun, which means that ship's already sailed. I'm already so done with it.
There was a guy in Washington State who went one day and robbed a bank with his grandpa's pistol. And I don't know what he got, like $300 or something like this. And when it was all said and done, his grandpa's pistols were $314,000. So pay attention to what you got going on.
Okay, there's a lot of that. I don't even know what to say because it's yes.
Yeah, and it's funny because one pistol looks just like the other one. I mean, rusty, fingerprints, dents, whatever. It just happens who owned it or what sequence was it built in or
the provenance or what or how it worked or something to it. I mean, so there is a spot where look in your own gun safe is what do you have? What's its history? But for a lot of people, it is very difficult to try to figure out what the value of their gun is and how, because the Blue Book of Gun Values, as informative as it is very intimidating.
Well, there's a lot of things too. If you're 1911 pistols, there's lots of them out there. And they're made by a lot of different people and stuff like this. But there's some really, really prime pieces in this stuff. If you have the 1937 Colt Navy contract guns, just as they would see in World War II coming on, they bought more 1911s of the 1911 A1 style. They got commercially blued guns in this certain serial number range. Well, those guns are super, super rare and super valuable. A friend of mine, he had one. He sold it for $40,000. It looks just like every other 1911.
You want to look at my safe and see if I have something magical?
It's just knowing what you're looking at. And there's other things in the stuff that is, just recently there was a Winchester that hammered down at auction for $440,000. I mean, I'm sure it was a little more deluxe than the standard hardware store Winchester, but it's still, that's a lot of money over top of what a normal Winchester would sell for.
Right.
But if you got an old gun that it's got its box and it's got its paperwork and it's probably still got all of its original bullets, never even been fired or anything like this, the Blue Book can't really help you with that. I mean, they can say, well, this is what a 100% gun should look like. But a new in the box gun that's 90 years old or something
is not 100%. It's above 100% gun. So.
Right, and so it's so rare if you're a collector and you need that gun, you got to pay that money because otherwise you end up dying without that gun.
Right, and if you're the owner of said gun, the only thing you need is two guys who want that gun and an auction.
Right.
Right. You know, one guy wanting it, it's going to go for whatever you've asked.
This is an extremely good time with as many auctions are going on and stuff like this. It used to be that one guy had this really nice gun, and when he was getting old and that, he would give it to his friend or make a deal and sell it to his friend or sell it to somebody at the local gun club or something like this. And most of the time that deal was done, you never seen it, you never got a chance at it. Now there's so many of these auctions everywhere, you can get in on some of these really, really rare pieces and things that you would normally never get a chance to see.
Never hear about. Yes. Right. There is that, but let's talk a little bit about if you decide that you're going to collect something. I mean, our dad collected Rugers, but he collected Rugers because when he first started looking at guns and said, I really like guns, he wanted a Colt, but he found out that he could get 3 Rugers for the price of 1 Colt. So he was like, I think I'm going to go down this path.
Well, the funny part is right at that time, Ruger made their big change with the old model, new model thing. So that gave him a cutoff point. So he knew what he was looking for in that thing. So he concentrated primarily on the 357 from when they started in 55 until the switch over in 72. And so it makes it a lot easier. If you're collecting something that they've been making since 1894 and they still make it today. There's a lot of those out there, and sometimes there's 10 different variations every year that's out there. So you have to, pretty soon your collection's bigger than your house is.
Right. Yeah. So you have to be able to scope the edges of it so that a collection kind of fits in a box, and the box can be however big, but the box has sides, the box has edges.
But some people, some people have one gun, and this is my gun collection, and some people have 50 guns, and this is my gun collection. Some have a direction in their collection, and some are somewhat
they're gatherers.
And my collection is what is it? Divine intervention. It's whatever someone offered me cheap is now what I own, and it may be that I got some really prime pieces in there, but it was because somebody offered them to me cheap. I was in the right place at the right time at that time. So, but like I say, if you're really interested in something, I mean, you're going to collect wobbly pistols. Buy some books, read the books, understand what they're talking about.
Do they have to buy the book, or can they just go to the library and ask the librarian?
It's more than likely you're going to look at that book 150 different times. Every time you buy a new gun, you're going to go over that book with a fine-tooth comb because I never seen this little mark, or I never seen this.
But at the same time, I almost think that you start with getting the book from the library and finding out if that answers the questions that you've got in your head, because some books are built to be.
With the internet now, you can just talk to people and they'll say this book is very good, this one is not so much, or this one the information in it was good at the time it was written, but has been proven that a lot of that information wasn't correct, and so there's a lot of real early books that when they were writing them, it was what they had found or what they were able to sort out for themselves. And over the years, things have changed, and they realized that wasn't exactly the case, or things weren't as rare as.
Or they drew the boundaries and then found out there's stuff outside the boundaries.
The internet made a thing that's a big difference in the fact that in the old days, say the first 5,000 guns the company made, they shipped it out the front door, and it may have made it 100 miles before it was all doled out and sold to somebody. And then the guy that's clear across the country, he never gets to see these early guns or something. But now that the internet's here, he has as much chance to buy an early gun as he did the other one. And so some of this gun broker and different auction sites and that have made it so that it's even the playing field for
has it changed the price by reducing the price or raising the price because now there's more potential shoppers?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on the actual piece and how many of those pieces there are out there. And if you're looking at a Winchester 1 of 1,000, there's only just so many of them. So you're not going, it's not really going to change the price. If anything, it's going to raise the price a little bit because there might be more people looking at buying one than the old days of you might find one guy who could afford one. But if you've got just a standard Winchester that's across the country and you're just looking for, say, a 1920s with a flat loops on it or something, it's an easy enough gun to find. You just have to find the guy that's selling it, and so the price is really not going to change that much.
So that'll make it more price
it's all across the country now instead of where it used to be just in the East Coast mountain region.
Some more supply. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, So please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Rangemaster certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
So there's a news story. There's an absolute news story that is coming out about banks and the New York-based Amalgamated Bank wants to track your gun purchases. So let's see. Oh wait, I've got a listener comment. I'm going to go back to it and then I'm going to come back. Pro tip, you can get cheap or free old copies of the Blue Book of Gun Values from gun shops. It's worth asking, especially if you're a good customer or bring donuts to the shop with you on Saturdays. So yeah, because they switched to the new one and the old one doesn't have any value to them. But the other part is that you can then talk to them to show you how to really read through the Blue Book of Gun Values, because it is a reference book that has different segments and sections, and it takes a little bit of time. It shows you color
pictures of how, like, condition, but the different, if you got a new gun that was built, say, from the 1980s to now versus a gun that was built from the 1880s to now, there's a difference between what a 40% gun looks like between the two guns.
Well, there's that, but there's also differences in when you're reading. It's like read the whole section, because it's like it has this feature. Oh, it could be called this. It could be called that. It could be called this. And so it takes some time to figure out how to read through it. But it is a great reference book.
There's other ones that have pictures too that sometimes their prices are not up to snuff.
No,
but their pictures are worth their trouble, because if you're trying to decide what a 701 versus a 711 model is, it would show you in a picture so that you can make that decision versus trying to describe it to you in print.
Yeah, they're trying to tell you the words, in words, what the differences between these two little things, these little variations are. Yeah, there is a lot to that. Believe me, that would be back to the I've read it 3 times. If it still doesn't have enough meaning to me for me to be able to interpret it, I have to move on. But there's that. So let's go back to talk a little bit about this banks tracking you. We know that we are tracked on so many levels from so many things. If you have a grocery card for the discount, and so your grocery store tracks you, they don't track you because they want to know when you're in the store. Well, that helps them, but they want to know what you buy, what your buying habits are, and they can tell a lot of stuff about you. They'll know what to offer and what interests you based on tracking your habits.
Somebody who has access to that thing understands what you like to eat, when you get paid, so that you go grocery shopping.
Whether are you a morning person or you're an evening person?
Right.
Where are you? What's your cycle?
Time, or
when are you away from home because you're at the grocery store? What's your cadence? Are you an infrequent shopper? Are you a every Friday at 10 a.m. shopper? Right.
Every day at 4:15. You got to express right to the Walmart. Right?
Maybe, it may be that you do the European shopping where you go you buy a crust of bread and some meat, and you go home and there's your sandwich, right? And it's all of that. It really is, and they track all that. So the Amalgamated Bank made a recommendation to the group of banks so that the credit card industry was approached about creating a tracking code for firearms and ammunition purchases. And so the industry has blocked this. The author of this CBS News found it a novel effort and couldn't understand why the industry blocked it. But the crazy part was, and I use crazy as in a kind of a big way, is that Priscilla Sims Brown, the CEO of Amalgamated Bank, says that so much illegal gun activity depends on your ability to use the financial system to buy guns. But so much of the legal gun purchases use a credit card to buy. So how are they going to tell who's a bad guy versus who's a good guy until you do a bad thing? So her words are, the shooter who terrorized the Colorado movie theater in 2012 charged more than $9,000 worth of guns. The man who shot up the Pulse nightclub had put more than $26,000 on credit cards, but it doesn't say buying guns, just $26,000. The shooter who killed 59 at the music festival in Las Vegas, $95,000. Once again, can you say gun runner? Because that's not our weekly budget. We'll just say. But so the bank says we have an obligation to address crime that is being facilitated through our system. But until a crime is committed, they are using a legal system, the banking system, to buy a legal gun that they are legally allowed to have using the background checks that are already in the system.
So in reality, every part of that banking transaction was totally legal. And
every part of it. So they just want to say, well, then later when they found out something bad happened, we could have done something. How can you know? And what are you going to do? I charged a gun. You're going to call the police on me? I mean, because I bought ammunition. You're going to call the police on me?
You have to go to a gun shop that's called so-and-so's Tire and Wheel or something.
I remember locally, there was a coin and jewelry shop that did a lot of internet sales, and they kept getting robbed in the mail. So they changed their name to Stowe, Nut, and Bolt. because then when the package, people would think there was hardware, not.
But what comes in a little box and weighs a lot? Besides nickels, it was
nuts and bolts. What rattles like that? Nuts and bolts. So it was kind of brilliant on their part, but there would be that. So if they created this code, then there's all kinds of things to that. Wait, I got to read this. When they know all the commercials they showed us, and they know what and when we buy what we do, and then they know what works to trigger and triggers our decision. Exactly. They track us. I'm sorry. I had to read this first. They track us. And then when they're done tracking us, they look at it to say, oh, this commercial triggered you to buy something. This commercial didn't. This item at the end of the store, or this item that was in a special, has intrigued you.
When you need a broom and the only song you know is "Oh Cedar,"
we had a conversation. We had a conversation today because I had a broom that I was sweeping, and the broom was defective. It was defective, and Rob says you only buy a broom that has its own theme song. And I said I didn't know that Libsyn. I think it's Libman. I didn't know that Libman had a theme song, and he says, "Oh, Cedar does." And I'm like, so I buy Libman brooms.
Think about it.
Obviously,
when your car breaks down, the kids are in the back singing "Better Get Amco, Honk Honk" and stuff. So, I mean, it's all in that. What's haunting your head that you get some stupid song that's going at it.
Oh yeah, Garfield,
even if the song isn't good,
2, 3, 2, 3. Exactly.
Even if the song isn't good, you still remember it,
and then you'll be frequent.
Like, well, it doesn't matter because I need one at this point.
Exactly. Now I need one, and where am I going to get the one that I need? Exactly. But no, so the bank wants to track guns and ammo. They're already tracking everything else, but they want a special code to be able to track it. We are being tracked on so many different fronts that some of this it's got to be illegal.
Go
right?
to your gun shop, make friends with them, tell them what you want. They'll get it in for you. You pay them cash, and then you take it away, and nobody writes anything down. And they're the ones that are making money. And when you need them the next time, they're still there doing their thing.
That's for the ammunition and the supplies and the things. But the guns are still going to go through the background check. There is that piece, but it doesn't have to go into the other records. So, hey, folks, I want you to think about some of this stuff because it's just a crazy world we live in, but it's been a really good week. We'll see you next week.